In this video, I want to talk with you about exposure. I want you to think for a moment about all of the things that you've been exposed to in your life. What were the major influencers on how you think and what you believe? Not only who, but what? Like what systems? Counterfeit Christianity, the sciences, your schooling. You were required to go to school. Most of you probably went to public school. You were not homeschooled. Mandatory indoctrination has been placed on you, and you probably haven't really even thought twice about it. And the very things that this world holds up, the very things that your parents probably held up, the things that esteemed them, oh, my son is a doctor, my son is going to be a lawyer, my son's going to be a dentist, a politician, president of the United States. Look at our president now. Is that what you aspire to be? We don't even think twice about the fruit that's coming from these fields. My child wants to be a teacher. And then you're encouraged to go on to university and you learn even more disgusting things. One of the first things that God said to me when he drew me to himself is you're about to unlearn everything you think you know. I had no idea what he meant. I knew that he could do it. I knew that he would teach me. But at that time when he said that, I thought, okay, great. And we'll use my degree. You know what I mean? And we'll use my degree. Cool. I know how to learn, God. My goodness, I wrote a dissertation. I got a doctorate. This is a piece of cake. Right. I had no clue what God was going to do, how he was going to flip everything over on its head, and the very things that were important to the world, the very things and resources inside of myself that I used in order to function and be a success in the world were the exact opposite of what God values. And it's one of the hardest things for you too. When I see new people, one of the hardest things and some of the hardest people to work with are those who've been very successful in the world. You know why? Because success in the world is based on your flesh, but success in God is based in your heart and your spirit. And it's a totally different way of living. You literally have to develop a repertoire for living in the heart and spirit because there hasn't been one here. That has not existed in the world. People don't even know how to do it. It's part of the reason why I wrote Heart Known series, because people don't know how to do it. And they'll say things to me like, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. And then when they start doing the work, they're like, it's like completely foreign to them. But what about control? Because when you're living in the heart and spirit, you are submitted to God. You're not controlling anything. And so what those people are saying is, I'll do anything as long as I can do it in my flesh, as long as I can control it, as long as I can, by the delusional power of my flesh, of my mind and body, I can think my way through it. I can overcome. These are all lies of the world because it's literally gotten you nowhere as far as anything important is concerned. Might have gotten you some wealth, might have gotten you that career and degree, but where's that going to be when Jesus comes? You have to unlearn everything you think you know. I want to share with you something that's going on in the universities, particularly in New York, and with regard to the training of teachers. There's a movement called LGBT Teach. I encourage you to look it up. Just don't have anything to eat before you do, because it's going to upset your tummy. And here are some of the things that are being taught. Expose them. Expose them a little bit at a time. Have a pride flag in your classroom. Ask them what their pronouns are. Have special days where the girls wear blue and the boys wear pink. We must do away with this binary. We must do away with boys and girls. Why? Why would they want to do away with what God created? What spirit is that? Whose agenda is that? And why did this blow up right around the time of COVID? What's going on there? Because there was a major shift, and it wasn't COVID. But there was sort of a time period, wasn't there? There was a marked shift, and you saw evil increase. You saw it increase. You could look at a person and see their behavior, and with spiritual eyes, you could discern what spirit was in them, couldn't you? There was a shift. Why do you think? Is it man's doing? Is this a political war? A war of political ideologies? Or is this a spiritual war? So these teachers are being trained up in satanic ideology. Another thing that God said to me when he first started drawing me to himself was he was mainly focused on the sciences and the churches, but he also talked with me about the education system, that he was angry with the sciences, the churches, the false churches, and education. Why? These are systems that you have been required to be exposed to in the world. Required to be exposed to in the world. even to the extent that you have to regurgitate. You're required to regurgitate, and then you're graded on it. And then not only does the school punish you if you don't do it right, but your parents probably punished you too. And you probably punished your kids. And slowly but surely, the responsibility and authority that God gave parents began to be handed over to school, even to the extent that parents will listen to what the school says about how they should raise their kids, what their kids should believe, and how their child should perform. Who is that designed for? And so they're slowly introducing ideology to normalize satanic behavior and taking good for evil and evil for good. And there's nothing more powerful than putting a bunch of preteens and teenagers in a room when all they want is to be liked and to fit in and belong and to form an identity. And then you have a deranged grown-up and all of their peers of one mind, and you're the only one sitting there with a different idea. You think you're going to speak up? Well, I don't know. We've all been teenagers. What was your experience? Would you have spoken up against all of that, taken a hit on your grade, and made yourself unpopular? Why are these people so invested in teaching these things to our kids? What's going on there? Well, I've told you that Satan only has a license to do business through you, through your sin. Whatever it is that you want, you have to check your heart, because if what you want is power and prestige and you want to fit in with your colleagues and you want some sort of status and you go along with the status quo, well, then Satan's going to have a way to manipulate you and to operate through you. Now, what else have you been exposed to? The news, social media, television, radio, YouTube. And I talk with you all the time about this, that you have to be discerning about what you're ingesting. You are living during one of the most wicked time in history. The most wicked time in history, actually. We've been told that. And you have to be so careful about what it is that you are eating, the doctrine, the ideology that you are ingesting, because the world has its own gospel. It's not a true gospel, but it's a gospel, isn't it? If you say anything, you make any claim, what's the first thing that they're going to tell you? What's your authority to even say that? Where's your research? Where's your expertise according to the world? And you say, well, that's my testimony. Well, what's your testimony to the world? The world doesn't care about your testimony. They don't care about your experience. God cares about it. It's extremely important to God, but it's foolishness to the world. But this is what God has built in me. Well, who's God? We don't believe in God, so don't talk to us about God. Well, I don't believe in your research. I don't believe in your science, so don't talk to me about that. Do you even get to say that? You have to be discerning about what you're ingesting, what you're exposing yourself to, what you're exposing your children to. And the other thing is that you may notice on this channel that I reiterate concepts over and over and over and over and over. And the reason why is because you are living in a world where you are bombarded everywhere you go. The minute you walk outside of your house, billboards, radio, news, what people are wearing, what they're doing, what is the norm out there in the world. And you have to get to a place where this is disgusting to you, where you're grieved by it, where you don't want to be out there in the world. Oh, but the world says that that's unhealthy, right? You don't want to be alienating and isolating from the world. Yes, you do. You are to have nothing to do with it, especially at this time in history. And you also need to be paying attention to what you expose yourself to and what you're exposing others to. And you need to be aware of the scheme of the devil to slowly expose you. A little rainbow sticker on your paper at school, genderless clothing ads, non-binary looking people. And they all look like they're having fun, don't they? I mean, they are just, look at the drag queens, look at the parties, the happy hour. Look at what these people are doing. They're all done up. They look like they're having fun. They're totally lawless, over the top in appearance. And it looks appealing, doesn't it? Until you have the Spirit of God, and then you feel disgusted by it. That worldliness, the over the top, the nice clothes, vanity, the partying, it looks attractive. It looks like they're living their best life. And you know what? This is going to be their best life, because the next one's not going to be so good. You are to live separate. You are not to blend into that norm. That's the reason we have Christians observing Easter and Christmas and St. Patrick's Day and Halloween of all holidays. Come on. That's the reason we have this blend of paganism and so-called Christianity, because Christians have not been discerning, because they haven't stood and they haven't paid attention and they haven't obeyed God's command to be separated, to be set apart as a holy nation to him. Don't fall for that scheme. And in fact, you have fallen for that scheme quite a bit in your life because you were born into it. And you need to come out of it. You need to be brought out of it. So no one should say that they have no work to do with God. Oh, just not sure what he's convicting me of today. Oh, there's plenty to work with. Lay your heart bare with him. Ask him to pull this stuff out of you. Invite him to pull counterfeit Christianity and the world out of you. Babylon out of you. Because you've been exposed to a lot. And you're going to have to unlearn everything you think you know in order to learn what actually matters to God. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.